Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Tuesday, October 10th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had precipitation mainly focused over the northern and eastern half of the Great Basin. However, most of this precipitation was largely below normal, with the exception of parts of southern and eastern Idaho into Wyoming and small parts of eastern Utah. If we look at the snowfall, first over the last 72 hours, the image on the left only shows a few new inches of snowfall in the high elevations of far eastern Idaho into Wyoming and far northeast Utah. Otherwise, very minimal amounts of new snowfall was reported. Looking at the snow depth, the image on the right, you can see over the central Idaho mountains and over Wyoming into the higher elevations of northeast Utah, we still do have several inches of snow on the ground in the high elevations. Looking at the satellite loop from this morning, we have a ridge of high pressure dominating the eastern half of the Great Basin. However, this will be pushed eastward by a strong area of low pressure that will drop south into the Pacific Northwest. This will bring additional precipitation, especially to northern areas of the Great Basin, along with gusty winds and much colder temperatures. Temperatures will likely drop to 15 to 20 degrees below normal across the Great Basin, especially over the northern half of the area as we go over the next few days. Now looking at the weather pattern over the next few days, today very dry conditions continue over the southern half of the Great Basin. However, winds will start to increase later today, but largely remain below about 30 miles per hour across the Great Basin. You can see the stronger area of low pressure dropping into the northwest, and this will bring much cooler temperatures, gusty winds, along with some precipitation. Ventilation indices with the southwest wind flow across the area will remain quite good. Looking at Tuesday today for the winds and mixing height, you can see the winds starting to increase today across the Great Basin, with most gusts around or below 30 miles per hour with a general south to southwest wind component. The strongest wind gusts will be in the higher elevations of the central Idaho mountains. Looking at the mixing heights will remain relatively high over Idaho and a little bit lower, but still relatively good over much of the rest of the Great Basin. As we move into Wednesday, this area of low pressure starts to move eastward, so we'll see stronger winds across the Great Basin and also some cloud cover and possibly some light showers moving into Idaho. Dispersion will still remain good across the area as these winds increase ahead of the area of low pressure. Looking at the winds on Wednesday, the strongest winds will be over the eastern half of the area. These winds will also combine with low relative humidity over western Utah into eastern Nevada with southwest to south winds, generally gusting between 30 and 40 miles per hour. Mixing heights will be increasing across the area on Wednesday ahead of this area of low pressure. Winds will be shifting to the west or northwest across Idaho as that low moves in. Looking at Thursday, this is where we'll see a greater increase in showers across the northern areas. So Idaho will also see cooler temperatures with snow levels dropping to below 7,000 or 6,000 feet. So we will see new snowfall in the higher elevations, mainly across Idaho on Thursday. Also, temperatures will be cooling across the Great Basin, where highs will drop between 10 and 20 degrees below normal, especially in the north. Dispersion will also start to decrease as that low moves overhead over much of Nevada into northwest Utah and southern Idaho, and still remain fairly good for one more day over the far eastern areas of the Great Basin. Looking at Thursday, as that low does move overhead, winds will be decreasing, allowing again for poor dispersion across the western half of the area, but winds will still be gusty with low relative humidity across the Arizona Strip and into southern and eastern Utah. Again, mixing heights will remain high in this area and will be decreasing over the western half of the region. Looking at the clearing index for Utah over the next few days, again with those gusty winds today and increasing into Wednesday and Thursday, we will see clearing index generally increase as those winds increase as we go through the next few days, but then we'll be decreasing again over northwest and western Utah as winds decrease on Thursday. Looking at overall forecast amounts of precipitation for the next few days, most of the precipitation again will be focused in the north across Idaho. Now looking a little further ahead, Friday into the weekend, we will see that trough of low pressure continue to move eastward across the Great Basin, continuing showers in the north and drier and breezy conditions in the south. Therefore, dispersion will generally remain high over areas where winds will be a little bit gustier and still somewhat low over parts of central and northern areas. On Saturday, that trough of low pressure finally starts to move off to the east, where wind direction will shift to the west and northwest. We still may see some showers in the far north, but most of the region will remain dry. Also, dispersion will remain good across the Great Basin. On Sunday, We see some lighter wind flow as a ridge of high pressure starts to build in across the area. Temperatures will be warming as we go later in the weekend with drier conditions. However, with the lighter winds and lower mixing heights, dispersion will also start to decrease with less ventilation. On Monday, similar conditions with generally light to moderate westerly flow, poor dispersion in most areas, and dry conditions. Looking at the forecast amount of precipitation for days 4 and 5, which takes us from Friday through Sunday morning. Again, most of the precipitation focused in the north, and we will see a lot of this precipitation above 6,000 feet fall as snowfall. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, we're still looking at cool conditions as troughs continue to move into the west coast every few days, and also above normal precipitation generally in the northwest and the far northern areas of the Great Basin, with near to below normal precipitation further south. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.